Move your feet right now. Just wiggle your toes under the covers tonight. Or even right now if you're sitting down. Feel that? That tingling, that numbness, that burning sensation creeping up from your toes. I want you to really notice it because what I'm about to tell you might change how you think about it completely. Can you even remember when this started? For most of my patients, they can't. It wasn't one bad night. It was gradual. First just the toes, then the whole foot. Then it started waking you up at 2 in the morning, and you've been living with it ever since, telling yourself it's just circulation, just getting older. Here's what I want you to hear. There are 3 silent problems behind nighttime foot numbness and burning, and 2 of them are almost always working together, feeding off each other, making your nights so much worse than they need to be. I'm going to walk you through all 3. My name is Dr. Grayson, and I work in preventive health and senior wellness. I want to be upfront with you about something. In my years working with older adults, nighttime foot numbness and burning is one of the most dismissed symptoms I see. Patients come in, they mention it almost as an afterthought, and they get told it's just circulation, just nerves slowing down with age. Here's a pair of compression socks, see you next year. The real cause underneath it all never gets addressed. That's not good enough for me, and it shouldn't be good enough for you either. So today, I'm going to give you plain language, real physiology, and practical steps you can start using tonight. No jargon you can't follow, no vague reassurances, just what's actually happening in your body and what you can do about it starting this evening. Before we go further, drop a comment below. Is it numbness or is it more of a burning sensation? And does it affect one foot or both? Tell me, I read every single comment, and your answer actually tells me quite a lot about what might be driving this in your body. Write it down now, then keep watching. Let me explain something most people are never told. The nerves running down to your feet are the longest nerves in your entire body. They start at your spine and travel all the way down to your toes, and along the way, they depend on a steady, uninterrupted supply of oxygen and nutrients carried by very small blood vessels. Here's the part that matters most for you. As we get older, both nerve conduction and circulation can naturally slow down somewhat. That means anything that disrupts nerve health or anything that disrupts blood flow tends to show up first and worst in the feet. They're simply the farthest point from the heart and the most vulnerable to any disruption along that long pathway. Now here's why this hits hardest at night. During the day, you're moving. Walking helps push blood through your legs and feet. Your muscles are contracting, your circulation is active. But at night, when you're lying still for hours, that natural pumping action stops. Circulation slows, and whatever low-grade nerve irritation or restricted blood flow has been building quietly in the background suddenly has nothing competing with it. No distraction, no movement. Just you, lying still, and your nervous system finally loud enough for you to notice. That's why so many of my patients tell me the same thing. It's fine during the day, but the moment I lie down, it starts. That's not a coincidence. That's physiology. And once you understand that, the 3 causes I'm about to walk you through will make a lot more sense. The first cause is the one I see missed most often, and it's called peripheral neuropathy related to blood sugar issues that haven't been diagnosed yet. Here's what I mean by that. Many adults walk around for years with elevated blood sugar, sitting right on the edge of prediabetes or early diabetes without ever being formally diagnosed. No one told them. Maybe their last blood work was years ago. Maybe the numbers were borderline and nobody flagged it. But here's the critical detail. Nerve damage from elevated blood sugar doesn't wait for an official diagnosis. It can begin quietly, years before anyone puts a label on it. Sustained high blood sugar affects the small blood vessels that feed your nerves, and over time, it can affect the nerves themselves. And because your feet have the longest nerves in your body, they're typically the very first place this damage becomes noticeable. It often starts as a faint tingling, the sensation of pins and needles or feet that feel like they've fallen asleep, even though you haven't been sitting on them. Left unaddressed, it can progress to burning, especially at night when, as I just explained, nothing else is competing for your attention. Ask yourself honestly, does the burning get worse specifically at night? Does it feel like pins and needles, or like your foot has gone numb the way it does after sitting in an odd position for too long? If that sounds familiar, this is worth taking seriously. Here's the good news. This is one of the easiest things to check. A simple blood test, either a fasting glucose test or what's called an A1C, which reflects your average blood sugar over the past few months, can tell you and your doctor exactly where you stand. If it turns out elevated blood sugar is part of what's driving this, the earlier it's caught, the more manageable it is, and in many cases, some of the nerve irritation can actually improve once blood sugar is brought under better control. I want to be clear. I'm not telling you that you have diabetes. I'm telling you this is one of the most overlooked, most checkable causes of nighttime foot symptoms in adults over 55, and it deserves a conversation with your doctor, not a guess. If this is making sense so far, type the number 1 in the comments so I know you're still with me. I want to know how many of you are recognizing yourselves in what I'm describing. The second cause is one that genuinely surprises people because it's hiding in something you might already be taking every single day. It's a deficiency in vitamin B12, and here's why it's so easy to miss. B12 plays a direct role in maintaining the protective sheath around your nerves, the insulation, essentially, that allows nerve signals to travel properly. When B12 levels drop too low, that insulation can be affected, and the result can be the exact same tingling, numbness, and burning sensation in the feet that we just talked about with blood sugar. Now here's the connection most people never make. Certain very commonly prescribed medications can interfere with how your body absorbs B12 over time. This includes metformin, one of the most widely used medications for blood sugar management, and acid-reducing medications, the kind many older adults take daily for heartburn or reflux. On top of that, the ability to absorb B12 from food naturally declines somewhat as we age, regardless of medication. What makes this so often overlooked is the timing. This isn't something that happens overnight. It develops slowly, often over months or even years of being on one of these medications, which means if your foot symptoms started a while after you began a new prescription, you may never have connected the two events. But that delayed timing is exactly the pattern I see again and again. So ask yourself this. Alongside the foot symptoms, have you noticed unusual fatigue, some brain fog, trouble concentrating, or just feeling generally run down in a way that's hard to explain? B12 deficiency often shows up as that combination, fatigue and foot symptoms together, not foot symptoms alone. This one is also simple to check. A standard blood test can measure your B12 levels directly. If you're on metformin or a long-term acid reducer, I'd encourage you to ask your doctor specifically whether your B12 should be checked and whether supplementation might be appropriate for you. This is a conversation worth having, especially if you've been on either of these medications for more than a year or two. Still with me? Type the number 2 in the comments. I genuinely want to know how many of you are taking one of these medications and never made this connection before today. The third cause is one that almost never gets discussed in videos like this one, and I think that's a real gap, because for a meaningful number of older adults, the issue isn't the nerves at all. It's circulation. Here's what's happening. Reduced blood flow to the feet, whether from narrowed arteries, a condition sometimes called peripheral artery disease, or simply from long stretches of sitting and inactivity that build up over years, can starve the tissue and nerves in your feet of the oxygen they need to function comfortably. And remember what I explained earlier about nighttime. When you lie down and stay still for hours, your circulation naturally slows even further. If it was already compromised to begin with, that's when symptoms tend to peak. This often feels different from the nerve-related causes we just discussed. Instead of pins and needles, people describe a deeper ache, a heaviness, or burning that seems to ease up when they sit on the edge of the bed and let their feet hang down toward the floor. That's an important clue, because gravity is doing what your circulation isn't doing efficiently on its own. Here are some questions worth asking yourself. Do your feet feel cold to the touch even when the rest of you is warm? Have you noticed any change in skin color, paleness, or a slightly bluish tint, especially on the toes? Does the discomfort actually improve when you lower your feet off the side of the bed? If several of these sound familiar, circulation deserves a closer look. This is something your doctor can assess directly, sometimes with a simple, painless test that compares blood pressure in your ankle to blood pressure in your arm. It's quick, it's not invasive, and it gives a clear picture of how well blood is reaching your feet. If circulation turns out to be part of the picture, there are well-established ways to support it, some of which I'll cover in just a moment. I want to be honest with you. Out of the 3 causes I've covered today, this is the one I see go unspoken the most, simply because people assume cold or achy feet are just a normal part of getting older. Sometimes that's true, but sometimes it's a clear signal your circulation needs attention. before I give you the action plan, I need a moment that matters. For most people, what we've covered today is manageable and not dangerous, but certain signs go beyond what we're discussing, and they need a doctor's attention promptly, not a wait-and-see approach. Please make an appointment soon if you notice any of the following: sudden numbness that comes on quickly rather than gradually, any open sore or wound on your foot that isn't healing, any new skin discoloration, especially dark patches or areas that look different from the surrounding skin, symptoms that are noticeably worse on one side than the other, or anything that seems to be progressing rapidly over just days or weeks. These signs deserve direct medical evaluation. Please don't try to manage them with home strategies alone. Bring them to your doctor. Now let's talk about what you can actually do, starting tonight. First, if you haven't had your blood sugar checked recently, make that appointment. Ask specifically for a fasting glucose test or an A1C. This single test can rule in or rule out one of the most common and most overlooked causes we discussed today. Don't wait for your next routine physical if it's been a while. Call and ask for it directly. Second, take a look at your medication list, particularly if you're taking metformin or a daily acid reducer for heartburn or reflux. Ask your doctor whether it would be worth checking your B12 levels. This is a simple blood draw, and if a deficiency is found, it's one of the most straightforward things to correct. Third, support your circulation directly. During the day, avoid sitting still for long stretches. Stand up and move every 30 to 60 minutes if you can. Before bed, try a few minutes of gentle ankle pumps, simply flexing your foot up and down while seated or lying in bed. This encourages blood flow through the lower leg without requiring any strenuous exercise. If you wake up at night with discomfort, try sitting on the edge of the bed and letting your feet hang down for a minute or two. For many people, gravity alone provides real, immediate relief. Fourth, pay attention to your footwear, especially at night. Avoid tight socks or restrictive bedding tucked too snugly around your feet, since constriction can further limit circulation exactly when you need it most. During the day, make sure your shoes fit properly and aren't compressing your foot. Fifth, and this one costs you nothing but a notebook. Start tracking your symptoms. When does it happen? How severe is it on a scale of 1 to 10? Does it ease when you move your feet or when you hang them off the bed? Is it worse on one side? Bring this written timeline to your next doctor's appointment. A clear record like this often helps your doctor narrow down the cause far faster than a vague description in the moment. None of these steps require a prescription to begin. They require a little bit of knowledge, some consistency, and a willingness to treat this symptom as a signal worth investigating rather than something to simply tolerate. Let's bring this together. Nerve irritation tied to blood sugar that hasn't been diagnosed yet. A quiet B12 deficiency, often connected to medications you may already be taking, and reduced circulation, which becomes most noticeable at night when your body is still. None of these mean you simply have to live with burning, numb feet for the rest of your life. Each one is identifiable, each one is checkable, and each one has a real practical path forward. If anyone has ever told you this is just what happens when you get older, I hope today gave you a different way to see it. You're not just aging. There is specific addressable physiology behind what you're feeling, and you deserve to understand it, not just live around it. If you found this helpful, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. I have another video coming soon that goes deeper into circulation and nerve health, and you won't want to miss it. If this gave you something useful today, consider sharing it with someone you know who's been quietly dealing with this same problem at night. It costs you nothing, and it might genuinely change how they understand their own body. And before you go, tell me in the comments, which of these 3 surprised you the most, and how long have you been dealing with this? I read every comment personally,